All right, welcome to the Big Texas Podcast presented by Texas Young Republicans. I'm your host, Jordan Overturf, bringing to you another episode interviewing a candidate out on the campaign trail. We got Vance Snider talking to us today via telephone about his race in CD13. But before we get to that, as always, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to do. Thank you so much for everyone who's been listening. Again, this podcast goes out on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, wherever you get your podcasts. We should be there. If not, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Big Texas Podcast, or follow us at the Texas Young Republicans Facebook page. We are so appreciative to everyone who's been listening and to the candidates who have been working with us to get these interviews done. Again, if you know someone who'd like to come on the podcast, you can reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at Big Texas Podcast. Also, we got a special election runoff coming up in January in Houston and Fort Bend area. Early voting starts on January 21st, and election day is January 28th for the special election runoffs for HD 28 and HD 148. It's Gary Gates running down in the Richmond-Rosenberg area. And then you've got Louis LaRota, friend of the podcast, who's running right there in Houston proper, the Heights area. And if you want to know more about Louis, you can go back, check out episode 1. Again, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. My guest today is Vance Snider. He is about as salt of the earth as you can get when it comes to Texans. I had a great time chatting with Vance. I always do that. Vance, I apologize sincerely. Vance was pulling double duty as a candidate and Mr. Mom, talking to us on the phone during the holiday break. And so we appreciate him joining us. When you talk about what it makes to be a Texan, these blue collar guys like Vance, who, he proudly served in the military and, he's raising a family. He is working for BNSF Railroad. I mean, I'll let him tell you the story, but I had a great time. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Vance Snider. Perfect Texas weather right now, right? I mean, the Christmas rarely disappoints.
I mean, if you're not experiencing all 4 seasons in one day, you're not really living in Texas.
Right.
So that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I think one day this winter we've had, I think it was nice and sunny in the morning, and then we got about 60. Then near the evening time, it shot down to like 20 degrees and was snowing and blowing wind and rain and sleet. And the next day it all melted away. It was absolute bananas.
So how does that compare with your worst day when serving overseas, weather-wise? Is there more competition on the battlefield, while you're moving around, or does Texas kind of put you through your paces?
Texas and Colorado Springs are pretty similar where we were stationed at. And when we actually went overseas, it was same type of terrain, same type of weather that we had, weather patterns we were used to in Colorado. So we trained like we fought. We went around. We didn't go out on patrol and stuff when it did snow or rain or sleet because of the clay and the dirt was a little bit different, so you'd slip and fall. And so what we ended up doing, I used to have videos up, but not anymore. And whenever it snowed, we would actually get one of these things called a Sketco. And these Sketcos would be, it's what you're supposed to, put an injured soldier on and pull them, kind of like a little sled. Well, we'd all pile up on that thing and sled down in the snow and have a good time. Just good morale booster. So we made the best of every situation we came across.
Well, there you go. So for people who don't know much about you, Vance, why don't you give us just a quick background on who you are, where you come from, and why you're starting to get involved in this race.
Yeah, so my name is Vance Snider. I grew up in Dumas, Texas, up in the Texas Panhandle, top little square part. And after high school, left the military, did 5.5 years overseas, did 2 tours overseas. I'm sorry, did 5.5 years in the military, did 2 tours overseas. Did 1 tour to Afghanistan from 2009 to 2010 with 4th Infantry Division out of Fort Carson. Our unit in that deployment became the highest decorated unit in all of Afghanistan. even to this day, we've had documentaries. We had one battle came out with 8 silver stars, 2 medals of honors, and I think one of them right now is getting upgraded to a Army Service Cross. Second tour, it wasn't really a tour. It was more of a, I don't know how you call it. We went to Kuwait. It was in the shutdown of Iraq, and it was to assist anything happened in Iraq, we'd be the first ones in and out. Back to the military, I left to go work in the railroad transportation industry back home in Moore County, and for a little short line railroad. I worked there for almost 2 years, and I quickly moved up in management there. I left there after almost 2 years, went to go work for BNSF Railway, and I'm still a railroad conductor for BNSF Railway in Amarillo, and that's my full-time gig, full-time job. That's what I do. I'm a blue-collar worker, and this coming January, actually next month, it will be 5 years with the company. So I got involved in this. I really got tired of the BS going along in our politics right now and how things are going. And, you know, it's like what we say is, you know, you can sit there and gripe and complain and do everything around the coffee table, or you can get up and go do something about it. So that's what I did. I got up and decided to do something about it, put myself out there and get out of my private life and make my life public and go forth and make this thing happen. You know, I'm a blue collar worker, and you know, my saying is, my hands are rough, my boots are dirty, and I'm not a career politician. That's what it comes down to. I've never been involved in politics my entire life. Well, it's my first time running for public office.
Well, and that's, you know, a kind of an interesting thing about the changing dynamics of politics within the past few years. I mean, every now and then there is a young up and comer, but, you know, with the rise of Dan Crenshaw, you also have the rise of AOC, and more young people are starting to run for these offices. So, you know, aside from, you know, being unhappy with the things that you're seeing happening at the federal level, you know, what are some of the other reasons as a young person that caused you to go ahead and get involved and decide to run for political office?
Just aside from being young, that's what's really killing our nation right now. You have too many people that are set in stone in their old sets of ways. You know, and I guarantee you, over the next probably 5 to 10 years, you're going to see the Republican Party evolve to a newer beast, where you have people like myself that have these new fresh ideas, where people that are in the older generation, they're not. They're stuck in their same old ways and their same, well, back in my day, you know, we went uphill 15 miles to school, uphill both ways. Well, I mean, if you keep saying that over and over again, people are going to get used to it and they get tired of it. That's why right now we have a huge influx of millennials going onto the Democratic side, because they hear all the things about free this, free that, and that's where the biggest voting demographic is, and that's why the Democrats are they're targeting that audience. If we can revolutionize this Republican side and the younger generation, let them know, like, hey, we're not these older people, we're not this older generation, get more younger people involved, then, you know, maybe we can just revamp it a little bit and do a, you know, just like a Hollywood reboot.
Yeah,
we can reboot it and go forth with it. That's what it comes down to. That's why my ideas. I got told. Actually, I was looking at a comment earlier on my Facebook page, and somebody told me, "I like you because you're unconventional, but you're still conservative," and that's true. There's so much truth to that, because I'm looking out for the blue collar worker, and all, you know, the Democrats for so long targeted, you know, with unions and labor unions and workers and all this other stuff, but really, what in the hell have they ever done for them? Mm-hmm. What have the Democrats really done for the working men and women? They've done nothing but raise taxes on us. Me, what I want to do, I want to cut taxes after overtime. You work 40 hours, and you overtime after that, you don't get taxed, because you get maybe an eighth of that back on your pay period, and you put all that straight in your body. And then whenever it comes to income tax, you wonder if you're really going to get that money back that you got taxed on your overtime. Yeah, and you have larger.
With more and more young people, you know, this job market, thankfully, has been booming, and more young people are getting into, you know, these skilled hourly paying jobs where overtime would be something that could benefit their families. So, you know, that's an innovative policy solution that I haven't heard too many people jump on board with. I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, though, where you're saying, the older generation like to say the old line of, well, I walked, uphill both ways in the snow, 15 miles to school there and back. But, I don't think they really thought it through when you're talking to a large generation of people like yourself who went into military service. That old tack of, it was much difficult for us when we were younger doesn't really sell with a guy like you, a guy like Louis LaRota, who's running down in Houston. To that end, what do you think it is that is inspiring more and more of our military folks to get involved in the political scene when they come home?
It's plain and simple. We've seen the evil in this world, and we don't want to see our country turn that way. We've been in crap hole countries where they don't have any kind of value of life. Reparations for somebody that was killed overseas. I know that they went through to the U.S. government and asked them, well, we want reparations for killing our son. Give us a bag of rice and a bag of beans. And that's the value of life that they had on that person. It wasn't anything else, or they'd ask for a couple $1,000s. And we've seen this kind of evil in the world. We don't want our country turning into that. We want our country to stay great and continue to evolve and be the number one nation, United States, and continue to have this freedom that we have today and not be oppressed by. Look at how the Taliban has just completely oppressed all the education system in Afghanistan. I can use that as an example all day long because I've been there and I've seen it happen. And, people gripe and complain about, children or something like that getting killed in these countries. Well, there's this movie I watched a long time ago, and it has to do with, it's called Lord of War with Nicolas Cage before he went crazy and started making all these straight-to-video movies. But he had this movie, and one of the greatest quotes in that movie was from a warlord he was selling to, is a bullet from a 12-year-old is just as effective as one from a 30-year-old. And there's a lot of truth to that. And you have these other countries that are doing that. We don't want to. I'm not saying we'll ever evolve to that, but it's military. The reason why we're all running is because we love our Constitution. We love our rights. We love everything about this country, and we raised our right hand to defend the Constitution from both enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, and especially on the Republican side, we see that Constitution being threatened on the daily. With more socialist actions and more communistic actions that the Democrats are trying to push to buy over these young people, free health care and free school for everybody. Well, somebody's got to pay for it. I mean, they want to push the free health care garbage, right?
Yeah.
Well, we already have free health care for the men and women that fought for this country, and we can't even get that to work correctly. Yeah. And that's government funded. And that's called the VA healthcare system. If you want free school, for too long we've pushed for go to college. Well, now you got all these colleges profiting off these stupid degrees that don't even work. What are you going to do with an art history degree? You're really not going to do anything with it. What are you going to do with a liberal arts degree? Well, that's nothing but a fancy way of saying you got a general studies degree. And we have a huge shortage of STEM majors. And with these STEM majors, we have a shortage of physicians, doctors, lawyers, all those types of careers because kids are too lazy to go forward to school. We need to start pushing more into trades and taking care of the shortage of plumbers and carpenters, welders. I mean, you can go to these trades, pay a couple $100, get a certificate, and go out and start making $20 to $30 an hour in these trades. And not have any student debt, whereas now you get out of college with $100,000 of debt, expect to have a $100,000 job.
Yeah, well, in Texas, energy is big money. That's one of the fastest growing job markets is in the energy field. And while on the larger scale, we look at something like a Green New Deal and say, that's not really feasible. But what is happening in this state is providing high-paid, high-skilled jobs. What do you think it is that we can change, or that you yourself hope to do if elected to Congress to engage more of those programs? Is it more funding for that in public schools? Is it creating more bridge programs through community colleges? What is it do you think we can do to change the culture of college, and get more people to realize the value of this skill training?
I think the biggest issue that we're seeing right now is just laziness. We have too many kids we have too many people growing up and they don't understand going out and getting a job at 16 or 15. So there needs to be it's not only just a college thing, but it's also it's a culture thing too. So, I would want to, honestly, I'd like to encourage more trade schools and have a trade program or educational program or educational campaign thrown out there saying, hey, there's no shame in going out and being a plumber and making 40 or 50 bucks an hour. I mean, it's not all about going and putting your hand down a toilet to make sure it's unclogged. There's a lot more to it. You can do everything from oxygen lines in a hospital to commercial grade. You can do plumbing for PVC for maybe like a farm or a ranch or something like that to feed and water horses in the agriculture industry. And people think plumber, that's what they think. They think you're just going to go out and dealing with toilets and sewage all day. It's not right. You look into the carpenter, you can go everything from being a carpenter and be a framer. And all you do is just frame houses, or you can go through and you frame in doorways. I mean, and you look over into electricians. Electricians is a huge shortage right now. And it's another apprenticeship program. You go into electricians, or you might be out there crawling in attics, or you do commercial grade where you're putting in electricity through the walls of commercial buildings. There's so many opportunities out there. I think there's a lack of education on that for these students in high school and stuff.
What do you think it is that you can do to connect with younger voters who are coming out and they're, looking at these pie in the sky promises of free healthcare, free tuition, how do we connect with the next generation of voters?
They really need to learn how to put forth that work ethic. I don't know why there's such a sense of entitlement right now and why they feel like they're entitled to everything. How to actually go forth and wrangle them in. That's something that's, I really don't have a perfect answer for. It's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. When you say free, everyone wants it. It's just like when you have the BOGO sales, the buy one get one free sales at Payless or wherever it may be. Somebody's having to pay for that other pair of shoes. Somebody has to deal with that, and I don't think that they get so caught up with wanting everything for free and feeling everything's going to be free and entitled to them that they don't want to put forth that effort and actually work. That, like I said, I just don't know to grasp on to the younger voters and stuff. Maybe I can just set that example of saying, like, look at me. I went to the military 5.5 years, and that's how I paid for the college that I did go to. I did take the course that I went to, and then I went and started a career in the transportation that didn't require a degree, and did quite well. Still doing quite well, and then you get fed up, and here I am, 30 years old, running for U.S. Congress for Texas 13 here in my district. If you have that good head on your shoulders and you're motivated and you wake up every day with goals set in mind, you can do anything you put your mind to. It's just one of those things. My wife tells me this all the time. She's like, "You're just absolutely amazing." Why do you say that, babe? And she says, "Well, anytime you set a goal for yourself or you want to go do something, you go for it, then you go do it. Like, you don't care what people think or do. You just do it. I've never seen somebody work so hard before. And it's about putting forth that work effort and ethic. I grew up with a work ethic. I started working for my dad when I was 13 years old, sweeping the floors, sweeping and mopping the floors, cleaning bathrooms, taking trash out at an auto parts store. And by age 15, I was buying my own clothes. For school, and that was a couple of pairs of Wrangler jeans from the Walmart for $13 a pair, and a couple of 4-packs of T-shirts, Hanes T-shirts. That was what I wore at school because I wasn't like all the other kids where their mom and dad bought them, $100 pairs of Lucky jeans or $80 pairs of Echo jeans from the Buckle or Hollister or stuff like that. It wasn't about designer jeans. It was about me putting forth my own dime and my own dollar to work for it. So I grew up a little bit different than a lot of other people that are my age generation, because my age generation is considered the millennial generation. But I have that work ethic that was instilled in me at a young age, at the age of 13.
Well,
I imagine that way.
I imagine that's got to be resonating well with your voters there in the district, and as you're going out and you're block walking, you're meeting folks at local events. What are some of the issues that are resonating most with them?
Biggest issues that we see in our area. I've talked to a lot of county officials and stuff, and a lot of it was unfunded mandates. It was things that the counties and local government have to pay for that shouldn't have to pay for. We have one county in our district that's fixing to have to spend $125,000 on new voting equipment and machines out of their county funds when they have maybe 2,000 people in their county, which is ridiculous. You shouldn't have to pay that. And the only reason they have to have electronic voting machines is because of federal law. Federal law requires them to have those electronic voting machines, and they could easily do it all by paper and tally it up and go that route. And that's what we see being an issue in some of these smaller rural counties. Our district is a lot different than the majority of the United States because of how rural it is. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of counties that make up of 1,000, 2,000 people. We have one county that has less than 300 people in it. And there's 41 counties total in my district, and I've traveled to probably about half of them so far. And I'm planning on traveling to the other half before early voting starts next month. So I think I was just kind of rambling on there.
No,
that is a big issue, though. And a lot of that stuff is being passed on to the voters and stuff, and that they need to have some kind of assistance for these small rural areas.
Well, and I think that may be an issue to kind of pivot to. Whereas if you are elected, you're going to go into a Congress that has largely turned its focus to the urban areas, not just of the state but of the country. What problems do you think that presents for you, and how do you plan to address that if you are elected? How do you hope to bridge the divide between the urban and rural representation in Congress?
Bring up actual issues and actual facts and data. There's a lot more than just my rural area. You have have you ever driven through Kansas? That's a rural area. Same thing with Nebraska. Everything is right here in the middle of the United States. You have Texas, you have Texas, Oklahoma. See, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota. The whole area of Wyoming. Wyoming has more senators than they do representatives. That's why they have 3 electoral votes. Mm-hmm. So we need to quit focusing just on what the issues are on the East and the West Coast. We need to focus on the issues among the United States as a whole. And to bridge that gap, the best thing we do is team up with the other representatives in these rural areas and start working with them to come up with legislation that's going to help out us in these rural areas, and not just these urban areas like Dallas, Houston, Austin, or Los Angeles, New York, Houston. Or I said Houston already. Sorry, Chicago, Minnesota. These are all big cities. That's where everybody's flocking to. But you still have to remember that every voice needs to be heard. That's the purpose of being a representative. Keyword is represent. You represent every single person in your district, not just the ones in the big cities or the people giving you money. That's one thing I plan on doing whenever I'm elected is go to all 41 counties every quarter or every semi-annually. It takes probably about 10 to 15 days to do it of travel time, but I'm going to go to every single county and go hold a town hall meeting and talk to everybody and let them know about educate them on the legislation that's being brought up, what's going to be going on, see what their viewpoints are and what's going to be passed. I understand I'm not going to be able to bring up every piece of legislation up to him. I'll have to vote on my own. But whenever Thomas Paine created the pamphlets for independence called Common Sense, whenever they said we can't send everybody up there to go and vote for us, we elect one person to be a like-minded individual to represent us in our area. And that was one of the forming documents to what we have today in the Constitution of being a representative. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm a like-minded individual like everybody else in my district. 80% of my district's working class. The other 20% is your professional things like lawyers, doctors, and other things of that nature. And that's why I want to go forth and put forth this, help out these other urban areas across the United States. It seems for like too long. I mean, our voices were heard in the 2016 election because we were fed up with how the country's ran the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. And then here they go try to impeach a president, yet the Republic's spoken. And people say, well, people vote, not area, not land. Well, you don't understand the reason why they put the electoral voting system, the electoral college inside the Constitution, well, so that states would have a say, and so that all these people would have a say in their areas and their land masses and their territories, not just a popular vote of concentrated areas that live along the east or the west coast or certain areas. And people don't understand that.
You brought up the magic word, so I'm gonna go ahead and circle back to it. Where do you stand on impeachment, and where do you think we can course correct when the new term begins in 2021? I mean, we've got a whole year. We're gonna have to still go through whatever happens in the Senate, but even still, regardless of the outcome, what do you think it's going to take for Congress, to get back to work on the issues when clearly they're so fractured right now?
Yeah, see, the last 3 years they've been focusing so hard on this impeachment and trying to just attack Trump that they haven't really been helping the people or taking care of the people. And that's why this coming year, this election season, you're going to see more red than you've ever seen before in your life because people are fed up and they're tired of it. They're sick and tired of the BS. This impeachment's nothing but a sham, and I truly believe it's because they don't have a viable candidate on their side for the presidential election. Excuse me. For it to revamp, I think after this coming election, you're going to see a lot more red. We're going to take the House back over, and continue to keep the Senate red, and we'll see a new revitalization, and somebody's going to help and work for the president, but not only work for the president, but work for the people again, and not just be a bunch of selfish pricks trying to impeach our president. That's really what it's come down to. They are just they're so darn selfish right now. I'm getting heated right now. I'm sorry.
No, I understand. I imagine there's a lot of your voters who are pretty heated about this issue as well.
Yeah. They're so heated. They're so selfish right now about their own personal gain, power, and wealth that they forget who put them in office. And they're going to be voted out. I mean, it's plain and simple. That's how you do it. That's how you take care of it. You get rid of them by actually going forth and voting for. I mean, I have independents that are coming. That independents are your biggest swing voters, and they go left and right. And some that voted Democrat last go around, they're coming over because we're a little bit far left. I have Democrats coming on page getting ready to vote for me because they don't like the way things are going. And the way things have turned out. They like a lot of the ways where I'm at and where I'm at in the issues. Anybody can. A big issue that I see right now is the impeachment, or not just the impeachment, but immigration. Mm-hmm. Where I live we have a highly Hispanic community in my district, and I remember one day I went to school back in 2006. I was on my way to school, and every intersection was blocked off by black SUVs while a bunch of buses went through town. And come to find out, they went and raided a meatpacking plant 10 miles north of where I live at, and they took away a lot of illegal immigrants that were up there working. Mm-hmm. And whenever we went to school, we didn't know really what was going on. The next day I came to school, maybe half, maybe 2/3 of my school was gone because the students that were my age were at home taking care of little brothers and sisters because mom and dad got picked up by ICE. It hits home to me. It hits hard because to see that kind of saddening thing stricken and hit home. It really hit home because I grew up with these people. I grew up playing football and stuff like that in sports in high school with all these different kids, and then they have to go forth and take care of that and have that tragedy. With the immigration itself, yeah, the wall is a very great thing. It's going to deter human trafficking, and these coyotes go and charging people $10,000 to $15,000 to bring people to the United States illegally, but yet there's a lack of education south of the border that we can implement a program to them. Average cost is about $1,000 to $3,000 per person to come to the United States legally, and that's with attorney fees and application fees and stuff. If we can fast track the situation, if we can actually fast track what it costs to come to the United States, if we can quit making it take 2 to 3 years for an actual, like 2 to 3 years for, say, to become legal residents or legal citizens, we can fast track a little bit for these people who want to come and have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in our country, like our forefathers did. Then let's do it. What's the harm is going to do? Because the sooner we get them in the United States, become citizens, the sooner they can start paying taxes and contributing to our society. And we need to have an educational system for it, and make it a more affordable form. And that's really what it really comes down to.
Yeah. Do you think Congress can have a responsible, I don't know if it can be respectful, but can they have a responsible conversation about immigration and deliver something to the president's desks?
I think they can, if they can get it all out of their heads, that if they can get rid of all the hate in their heart and get rid of all the anger and the bitterness, and actually have because what the true definition of a liberal is. It's being open-minded, having a conversation with somebody, and going back and forth, whether you change their mind or not. But you had a good conversation, like, well, that was a good conversation. Thank you for bringing things to light, and then shaking hands and walking away. And they've gotten so far off to where you're like, I'm right, you're wrong. Go screw yourself, something like that. That's really what it comes down to. We're seeing these issues left and right all day long. And if we can actually sit down and have a civil conversation, just because let them get over themselves, So like, it's like like a football coach of mine always said, like, oh, you're angry, are you? Well, build a bridge and get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's true. That's what needs to happen. They need to build a bridge and get over it.
I thought my dad just broke in for a second there.
Yeah.
So you're in one of these districts where, this go round, we're going to get a new infusion of fresh blood for the Texas delegation. Certainly there was a new wave that came in the last cycle. And then after 2020, the new lines are going to be drawn. We're going to see from the census how many new seats the state is going to gain. With so many new congressmen going to D.C., what do you think can be done to unite the Texas delegation to get back to bringing home victories for the Lone Star State?
It's going to have to be with working together and make sure that we continue to educate ourselves on the ongoing issues and not being pulled aside by these people that have been in Congress for 20 or 30 years. I think honestly, if we can do this and if we can gather together with all these other freshman congressmen and women, we can definitely put together, start a revolution across the United States and let people know that regular people like you and I can go and run and win and start this revolution. Because there's no other way you're going to get term limits in place. Because these, like I said, power, greed, and all money is going to keep these people in power. But if we can get people encouraged enough to show that people like us can go through and win, we can start that revolution, and we can start putting these term limits in place and getting rid of all this retirement and wasteful spending we see today. It's about freshmen banding together and creating our own ideas and fresh ideas and fresh and like-mindedness to revolutionize the United States and get it back going on track where it needs to be today, instead of us being pulled left and right by the people who have been there for 10, 15, 20 years. That's the biggest issue, because freshmen get in there, then next thing you know, they're hanging out with the seniors. They're hanging out with the people that's been there forever, and that's one way we can push forward to go forth and make things actually happen and make a change.
Well, that's why we
don't.
Vance, we love that we've got young Republicans like you that are getting out there. They are getting active and they are stepping up for their state. Vance, I'm sorry we got to go now, but I want to give you a chance. If people want to find out more about your campaign, follow you on social media, what is the best way for people to engage with you?
Yeah, so the best way to engage with me is on. I'm more active on Facebook. But I do have a webpage. My webpage is Vance, V-A-N-C-E, Snider, S-N-I-D-E-R, for FORcongress.com. Or you can go on Facebook and go to facebook.com/Vance, V-A-N-C-E, Snider, S-N-I-D-E-R, for FORcongress. And you can go that way. And if you're on Facebook, I am very active. I reply to pretty much almost every single person that comments on my stuff personally, because I believe in that personal touch. I don't believe in just going like, oh, you want to know about me? Here, go check out my website. You have real questions or real questions, you want real answers, go on there and make a comment on something. I'll definitely make sure I comment back. If I miss it, you can send me messages on there on Facebook. Twitter, I'm still working on Twitter and Instagram too. I'm working on both of those as well. But overall, Facebook's my most active. Twitter secondary, and Instagram is my last one that I'm not as active on. I do post on there.
Well, perfect. Maybe this will be an opportunity to get you some volunteers on the campaign, help boost your social media profile on the Instagram and Twitter. Vance, again, thank you for taking the time away from playing Mr. Mom and talking with us. We wish you best of luck in the primary, and we look forward to learning more about you and your candidacy.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody else has a great rest of your day. And, so let's continue to make America great again. That's really what it comes down to. Let's start revolutionizing this. Let's get some young people in office and go forth and, create some new, fresh ideas and try, instead of sticking to these old ways that we've been doing for the last 20 or 30 years.
Hey, I'm all for it. Thanks again, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you again to Vance for joining us during the holidays, taking some time away while he's watching his kids to talk to us about all these crucial issues that are facing voters in 2020 and are facing our country. Again, I had a great time talking to Vance. If you want to reach Vance, you can find him on social media, Vance Snider for Congress. He's on Twitter, on Facebook. His website is vancesniderforcongress.com. Be sure and check him out. Thank you again. And thank you everyone for listening. As always, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Big Texas Podcast. If you listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you also give us a rating and review. We appreciate you helping build the exposure of Big Texas Podcast and the candidates who are coming on, spending their time with us to talk about these issues. Again, guys, we're having such a good time with this. Got a lot coming up next week, so make sure you stay tuned. And until then, friends, we'll see you down the road.